Their playbook, I don't feel like is very defensible.
Yeah, I don't think it played well in front of the jury, and I don't think it will in future trials. It was the playbook we always see, right? It's blame the victim. And then when that didn't work, it was throw their hands up and say, hey, these experts that we paid to tell us we were doing everything right said we were doing everything right.
Welcome back to Tort Talk. Today, we are talking about the social media addiction trial that resolved last week. We finally had a verdict. We're going to be talking about Bard PowerPort, hair relaxer, Talc, and NEC. And to kick things off first, let's start with Bard PowerPort. We have the first Bellwether trial starting April 21st. Ton of activity going on in this MDL. Joe, can you tell us what people can expect from this first Bellwether trial and what's been happening over the past couple of months?
Like you mentioned, John, we're a little over 3 weeks out from this initial Bellwether trial. It's, like everybody knows, a crucial moment in this MDL. We have about 3,000 cases pending. The litigation's been going on for a couple years. We just heard from the judge on the all-important Daubert rulings. Most of our experts were able to get in, and they survived. We challenged one of the regulatory experts for the defendants, and what they always like to try to do is say that the device was approved by the FDA, therefore it's safe. But really, that approval from the FDA doesn't say it's safe. It's just saying that it can be used and that it's met the FDA requirements. So we have the final pretrial conference coming up. That's on April 9th. Then we have everything teed up for the trial. We'll have a couple days for the jury selection. We'll get things started. I think we're looking at about a 2 to 3 week trial here. So come mid-May, we'll have a result. Hopefully we'll get a positive ruling in this case. These cases can be challenging, but a lot of attention, obviously, towards the first Bellwether trial.
Clicks and web traffic don't sign retainers. People do. RR Digital helps law firms get more signed cases through SEO, paid marketing, social media, and more. All designed to track the right people and make the right impression when they land. Not to mention, we're a founder-led agency because we believe that the people setting the standard should still be in the room making sure the work actually delivers. If you want high-level accountability without the high-level distance, visit rrdigitalmedia.com for more information. Now back to the show.
Some more trials coming up too. In NEC, we've got trial in Cook County with 4 families who had a necrotizing enterocolitis with their newborn children. What can we expect in that trial?
Yeah, we're about a month into this trial. So this was a joint plaintiff trial. So there's 4 different families that all unfortunately had their children develop the NEC. We know these trials are really long. So we probably have at least another 2 weeks or another month to come in this trial. We started recently hearing from some of the mothers testifying. Obviously, this is very traumatic for them. It talks, and the defendants are trying to focus on blaming the mothers for some of their medical conditions, some of their history that led to these conditions. So we're getting some really impactful testimony. We still have to get through all of the experts to connect that specific case causation. But this is in state court where we previously had a $60 million verdict in Illinois. So we're hoping for another positive result. With multiple plaintiffs, we could see some really big numbers. Not any great developments recently out of the MDL. So hopefully we can turn the tide and get momentum on our side with the positive ruling in this state court action.
Are you still seeing people acquire NEC cases?
People are still getting NEC cases, not a huge amount of activity in the MDL. There's still under 800 cases pending there. So most of the action really is centered in state court, but not a huge case that people are acquiring right now.
Well, let's move on to a case that has the opposite, a ton of potential claimants that are involved in that MDL with hair relaxer. We've got almost 12,000 cases currently pending in that MDL, a bunch of crucial developments going on. What's happening in the hair relaxer litigation, Joe?
Yeah, so the first thing is the Daubert hearing. So like everybody knows, besides the Bellwether trial, this is the most important part of any litigation. So we're going to have the Daubert hearings coming up, and then we should expect a ruling from the judge. I'd probably say 60 to 90 days. So what's unique about this litigation is we have 3 different injuries, 3 different cancers that we're trying to proceed. We have ovarian, uterine, and endometrial. So we want to make sure that the experts get through in each one of those. So that's going to be huge for the outcome. We have about 80 to 85% of the inventory involves uterine and endometrial, 15% ovarian. So we're going to hear from our experts. Hopefully we come through, survive that. As long as all the cancers are intact, we're looking in a good place. And what's going on simultaneously is initially we had a group of 32 Bellwether plaintiffs. That's getting chopped down to 10. So how the judge is doing it in this case is 2 plaintiff picks, 2 defense picks, and then 6 picks from the court. So we'll have those 10 cases get worked up, depositions, expert testimony, doctor depositions, all the way through, hopefully get us to the first trial this time in 2027.
And then one that's even bigger than hair relaxer, we have Talc, which has, I believe, currently the largest mass tort in the country, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Over 65,000 cases.
A ton. And people are still acquiring Talc cases. There's been a flurry of activity over the past month. What can you tell us about Talc?
Yeah, so Talc, it hasn't been great for the plaintiffs, to be honest with you. We had a huge punitive damages award that was struck down. The compensatory damages still stood in that case, about 16 million. And then also there's been the fighting between Beasley Allen and J&J in this litigation. Initially, they got stripped of their leadership position in New Jersey State Court. And then more recently, the MDL judge as well stripped them as their leadership position in the MDL. So it's unfortunate we're having this fighting between law firms, really not focused on the plaintiffs as much and those injured. But what we do have is a positive development. There's supposed to be a settlement meeting going on April 13th. So settlement negotiations and mediation have been ongoing for a while, but anytime we have a date scheduled for that, we're excited about it. Hopefully we can get some more momentum going. I don't think we're going to get a global right now, but if we can start making some steps towards that, that would be great for everybody involved.
Yeah, what a coincidence. The day before the start of MTMP.
Yeah, I bet people will be talking about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. One of the other items that people are going to be talking about at MTMP is definitely this huge verdict that we had last week in the social media addiction trial. We had a $6 million verdict after about a week of deliberations by the jury, $3 million in punitives. It was, I think, a win for the plaintiffs. What's your take on it?
Oh, definitely a win for us. And we got both, like you said, compensatory and punitive damages. Obviously, we would have liked a higher number for the plaintiff. She's been through so much. But what I think this showed us is that we can win these cases. The 230 immunity, that's done. That's not an issue. And the jury agrees with us. The conduct of the defendants was willful. It is going to result in punitive damages. So I think there's going to be a lot of momentum building here. I also think that the number was what I'll call reasonable from the defendant's perspective. It's not a nuclear verdict like they like to say of $950 million. It's going to stand up on appeal. So this is a number and a jury verdict that's going to stand. And this is what a case of a similar situation, we know we can get that number at trial. So a lot of people are acquiring these cases. Everybody's going to be talking about it. There's more and more pressure coming on these, big tech companies. I think we could get a settlement sooner rather than later, still probably a year out because of the complexity of these cases and how many plaintiffs there could be. But it was a great day after the trial of the year we've been hyping up for months and months and months to see that plaintiff verdict.
You were talking earlier about how we could use this as a way to understand what the defense's playbook is going to be in upcoming trials. We've talked about that in Uber, and now we're talking about it in social media addiction. And their playbook, I don't feel like is very defensible, right? If you break down, well, let's take a step back here, right? There were actually 4 defendants. We had 2 that settled out right before trial. Snap and TikTok settled out. So we don't know how they would have handled it, but we know that YouTube's claim was, hey, we're not a social media network, right? Now, maybe that helped get them the 30-70 split that wound up resolving in the split of the damages. But the reality is that YouTube Shorts is eerily similar to TikTok, very similar to Reels on Instagram. And YouTube, being a part of Google, actually has a ton more data about people than the other social media networks do.
And I think we heard from the jury that defense doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that YouTube isn't a social media company. It is. Maybe it's a little less, but it definitely is. So I think that defense is out. And really all we have left is what Meta was trying to do at the trial.
Right. How do you think that defense stands up? Like their claims are that we did what we could do to protect, and we followed the guidelines of the experts that we brought in to help us protect people, and they really didn't have anything to push back against when Mark Lanier was putting papers in front of Zuckerberg's face saying, "Look, here is the proof."
Yeah, I don't think it played well in front of the jury, and I don't think it will in future trials. It was the playbook we always see, right? It's blame the victim. It was blaming the young girl who was using the platform at 6. It was blaming her mother. It was blaming her family. And then when that didn't work, it was throw their hands up and say, "Hey, these experts that we paid to tell us we were doing everything right said we were doing everything right. Don't mind this study that we could have done 15 years ago. Don't mind this alert. Don't mind this internal email saying that this was a problem." So it's a playbook we see time and time again in these mass torts. And it just doesn't play well because they could have done something back then. They could do something right now. They could do something tomorrow to end this and change it, but they won't because they're making so much money. So they're going to need time to implement these changes and make business decisions before they ultimately come to the table and settle. I don't want to throw out a number right now for how much it's going to cost them, but we're looking at billions of dollars, probably 10 plus billion to get out of this at the end of the day.
More or less than the market cap that was wiped out last week after the verdict.
Well, much less because they lost 200 billion in about a day. So, we're plaintiffs are only going to walk away with what, 10 billion? So that's nothing to them, unfortunately. But it's more about getting the money and then making the changes to these platforms. And we're really going to hold our line on that and see that both of them are done. But it's going to take a little bit of while to get there.
For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, last week, the day after the verdict came out, Joe was on LinkedIn talking about the Meta stock drop and the financial impact of the decisions that Zuckerberg and his team have made over the past decade about how the platform is evolving. How much of that do you think is directly correlative to the verdict, and how much is related to just the broader market that we're seeing right now due to the political climate?
Oh, I would say at least half, right? It came out the very next day, and you didn't see those similar type drops from the other ones, TikTok, Snapchat. So definitely big tech's taking a little bit of hit in the environment, but it was the day after. It happened immediately. It was more significant than we've seen with anybody else. And unfortunately, that's what drives these settlements is not what's happening in the courtroom, but what happens in the boardroom. So they'll start getting pressure from there. We'll keep going in the boardroom, try to get some legislative pressure as well. Then ultimately we'll see a change, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. We still have a little bit while to go in this case.
It was also interesting. The day after that verdict, I noticed that there were many, many lead generators who all of a sudden are starting to attempt to acquire social media addiction cases. They were everywhere.
They're everywhere, so just be careful. If you're looking into that, be careful. Make sure you know where the cases are coming from. Make sure you're using the real criteria. So reach out to Jon, reach out to me if you guys have questions about it. We've been involved for a long time, Jon, longer than me, so he knows it really well because what we want to do is we want to help the kids at the end of the day. So don't get taken advantage of. There's plenty of time left, but reach out to one of us and we'll give you some honest information.
Yeah, I was talking to the Lanier team the day after the verdict, and they were just inundated with inquiries from people who saw it on the news, saw Mark Lanier, read the articles in the newspaper, and they said, wow, like now really I can actually do something about this. It was kind of a pipe dream for people for a long time, right? Like, oh, your children may be addicted to social media, you blame social media, but now it's a reality, right? So there are a lot of cases that I think are coming out of the woodwork, so to speak, that are there. This is a nationwide, epidemic, so to speak. I definitely encourage anyone, you could reach out to me directly. I can connect you with the Lanier team if you do have cases in your local market. That is who you want vetting these cases. And then I think with any litigation, like Joe is right. You want to make sure that you have the right partner. On other litigations, reach out to Joe. Joe can help you get cases placed if you find them in your local market and you need to know who the best firms are for cases to go to. No better man than the man sitting right next to me, Joe Fantini.
Yeah, it's an important issue and we want to help the clients. So that's what we're trying to do at the end of the day. But it's an important topic and it's been proven now. So we got to keep pushing and get it finally resolved and changes implemented.
Yep, absolutely. Definitely prime for any of the PI attorneys out there who are watching this. Talk to your existing client base. It's great for a newsletter. It's great for some social media posts. Maybe you won't get hundreds of cases or dozens of cases, but you may be able to find people who have had some of these issues who are already past clients of yours. You can get them retained and then refer them over, whether it's to Linear or the firm of your choice. And you can really do that with many different case types. When things hit major news cycles, look to your existing client base first, and you will find that there are people who have been affected. The larger firm you are, obviously, the larger past client base that you have. It's always a great marketing pool for you.
Yeah, that's a good tip because those people know, like, and trust you already. You're sitting on a ton of cases, I'm sure.
All right, Joe, anything further to add on the social media addiction verdict?
No, looking forward to seeing everybody at Mass Tort Made Perfect. We'll be there live, so we'll be bringing you guys the latest updates on that case and any other developments between then and what we're hearing on the ground there.
I've already got some great episodes lined up for MTMP. There's a couple of big announcements that are coming at the conference, and we'll be sure to cover those and share with you all as quickly as possible. As always, Joe, thank you again. Normally the best 10 minutes in Mass Torts. We went 7 minutes over this week. We will see everybody at MTMP, and we'll catch you next week on Tort Talk.